Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. I wanted to talk a little bit about a death of a prominent political pundit, a pundit. Um, Today that happened is the death of Rush Limbaugh, the radio talk show host that is most known for his controversial and controversial and s- a lot of times divisive um political stances over the years. And it's it's not that he that he was a conservative that makes him, I say, have a legacy of hate. The things that he would say on the radio about African Americans, about immigrants, about LGBT communities were very vitriolic and hateful, in my opinion. And yes, it is sad that he has passed away, and now he can be judged by the only one who can be the judge of people, and that is the Lord Jesus himself. Um, but his legacy in radio, to me, was that of a legacy of hate, a legacy of divisiveness, pointing out the differences among people rather than the commonalities that bring people together. Because whether we are black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, liberal, or conservative, the one thing we are above all that, before all that, is human beings. And a lot of times I felt listening to Rush Limbaugh's um, show was a lack of empathy, a lack of caring for his fellow human beings that had a different political persuasion or a different race, or a different ethnicity or different sexuality. He often displayed cruel and vicious comments toward people based on their illnesses as well, like Michael J. Fox, like the 9/11 families, um, like some soldiers he did not agree with. I think Rush, for the sake of politics, went out of his way to be mean and hateful towards other people. I don't know if he was an actual mean and hateful person, because I didn't know him personally, but I think on his show, he went out of his way to be mean and hateful. He came at a time um, when conservatism, the kind of conservatism that he preached, was making a comeback, and he was one of the reasons why conservative talk radio became so popular. And behind him came an army of other guys who were like that, who were very similar to that. Mark Levin, Michael Savage, Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, Lisa says that he had to play the part of a mean guy. But the point is, Lisa, saying the kind of things that he said, a lot of people didn't know that it was a show. The reason why I titled this video A Legacy of Hate, and some of you might not think, um, you might disagree with it. You might say I'm being disrespectful to him. I'm not being disrespectful to him. Rest in peace to Rush Limbaugh. He is a human being. At the end of the day, It is only for God to judge the man's heart. I didn't know Rush Limbaugh personally. I I can only go on what I used to hear from him on the radio. And what I used to hear from him on the radio was a not kind man, a mean man, a hateful man, a divisive man, a person who was vitriolic, a person who was mean spirited, boisterous, judgmental, and a lot of the times was angry at a lot of the changes that he was seeing in society as far as women's rights, LGBT rights, and black rights. A lot of the things that I stand for, that are a part of the communities that I stand for, that are LGBT, African American, and minority rights, and the rights of people with disabilities, were things that Rush Limbaugh stood against. So I cannot, in good conscience, say that his legacy is that of a positive legacy in radio. Because a lot of the people that followed behind him were individuals that were even worse than he was. So Lisa may be absolutely right. He may have just been playing a part. But the point is, the people that followed him didn't see him as playing a part. He spoke to their prejudices, he spoke to their bigotry. And a lot of his words may have gotten a lot of our loved ones that are African Americans, that are LGBT people, and women hurt behind his followings and his ideology and his teachings. So, on the one hand, I cannot say ever that a person deserved to pass away because we're all human beings, and we all have families that grieve for us. So even an evil and wicked, more wicked person than even Rush Limbaugh does not deserve to die. But on the other hand, I cannot say either that his legacy from where I sit was a good legacy. The things that he stood for are things that I stand against, that are my personal beliefs that I don't believe in. But again, it's not for me to judge the man's heart. I'm not God. I didn't know his heart. You know, I didn't even know him as a person. But his legacy on the radio to me was a legacy of divisiveness, hatred, bigotry, racism, xenophobia, transphobia, and all the other bad things that are bad about human beings. Anything you could think about that is bad and evil about a human being was stuff he embodied and preached about. Bigotry, separateness, divisiveness, mean spiritedness, cruelness, lack of empathy. You know, like Lisa said, we all have good and bad sides, but the thing was that he relished his bad sides. He relished being being a despicable human being. He reveled in that. Not because of his political beliefs, but because of the way he would treat callers. He would hang up on them, he would mock them, he would make fun of them. Was just very mean spirited, a very mean spirited individual on the radio. Now, how he was on his personal life, again, didn't know the man personally, but on the radio, when you would listen to him, like, okay, some people that are conservative commentators are reasonable, kind, nice individuals. I think Ben Shapiro is one, in my opinion. But the kind of individual that Rush Limbaugh helped usher in was the kind of person um, that if he disagreed with you, he would ridicule you, he would make fun of you. For example, one time a black woman called in on the show, and he disagreed with this black woman on some political issue, and he told her to quote take the bones out of her nose in a reference to African customs and African spirituality, a really racist remark. The things that he said about Barack Obama, just evil and vile stuff, that went beyond political disagreements. He made fun of Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's disease. He openly mocked Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's disease. He openly mocked sufferers of COVID-19. This person, Rush Limbaugh, the on-stage character of Rush Limbaugh, and it was obviously a character. It was a caricature of a mean-hearted, mean-spirited conservative. Was an evil and vile character. But the problem was that many people didn't know that this was a character that he was playing to get listeners or to get views. They actually thought that this was the man. And maybe it was. Him. Maybe he really was that. You know what I mean? But going through some of the controversial comments that I heard through him over the years, I never liked him. I never, I don't, I didn't never think that that was the way to go about political discourse. There are people that are conservatives that are giants in the intellectual industry, like William F. Buckley. Um, and you may disagree with them, but they're polite, kind individuals, and their discourse is polite, and their discourse is kind. Rush Limbaugh was not one of those people. Um, yeah, Lisa, it was terrible the things he would say, especially about African Americans. Um, he was very vitriolic. Like when he called Barack Obama the quote unquote magic Negro on the radio. He received a Congressional Medal of Honor a couple of years ago from Donald Trump. And I guess for his achievements in radio, nobody could take that away from him, his achievements, what he did for political radio and political talk radio. But what was his legacy? His legacy was the people that came after him. Yeah, they were buddies. His legacy, him and Trump. His legacy, the people that came after him, Michael Savage, Mark Levin, and others, they were even worse than him. They were even meaner than him. They were even more racist than him. They were even more vitriolic and more bigoted than he was. So he left a legacy behind of mean spiritedness, of bigotry, of racism, of everything that is wrong with humanity, everything that we need to fix in humanity was what he left behind, which was his legacy. There are things there's a lot wrong with people, and a lot of things that we can all improve on, including myself and everybody. And relishing and reveling in being mean and being harsh and being cruel is not one of them. And you say, oh, well, I'm just being that way because I'm telling you like it is. I'm telling the truth. I'm being a truth teller. By what? By making fun of somebody with Parkinson's disease? By making racist comments? By um, pushing um, emphasizing the differences in people rather than the commonalities that make us human. Now, one thing I will give Rush Limbaugh credit on is he did support George Floyd after George Floyd's death. He actually went on the Breakfast Club and he was a guest on there with Charlemagne the God, DJ Envy, and Angela Yee. And he told his side, he told his point of view. And that's more than I can say for other conservative pundits. You know, you know, and he tried at least towards the end of his life to emphasize with the death of George Floyd and the oppression of African Americans. But who knows? I'm not gonna say. I was gonna almost say. Let me stop there. I was gonna say, who knows if that's authentic? We can't question his motives because, like I said, only God knows the heart. But towards the early part of his life, that he when he became what made him really famous was being this mean spirited individual. Maybe towards the latter half of his life, he decided, it wasn't really worth it. Like a lot of people, that their hearts are filled with hate towards the end when they start to get closer to their maker, they start to become more empathetic and caring. Hopefully that's what was happening. But we see his type still in the media today, not just the people that I mentioned, but people like Steven Crowder. They just revel in making fun of other people, making laughing at other people's misery. The type of people that, if, say, a person tripped and fell, rather than try to help that person up, they would just laugh at them. You know what I mean? We don't need those kind of people in the world as political pundits. Anyway, rest in peace to his family, condolences to his family. But I feel that what he encouraged in the world wasn't good things. He didn't encourage good things. He encouraged bigotry, racism, xenophobia, and homophobia, and just overall mean spiritedness. So anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe or dislike, because I'm sure many of you will disagree with this and see Russia's legacy as a positive thing. But me personally, I don't. I think if if anything were to come out of his positivity in his legacy is only for that of free speech. People should be allowed to say what they want to say, whether it's mean spirited, whether it's racist or whatever, it's anything, but they should question it in their own self internally, you know. And as a religious person, if he was a religious man, um, Jesus told us to love others um, as he has loved us, and to lead with love rather than hatred and bitterness and bigotry. So um, while I support free speech and anything anybody wants to say they could say, I would question a person's motives that says this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Because um, there's many people in the world I disagree with, but I don't make fun of them. I don't mock them. I don't laugh at them. I pray for them. You know what I mean? So I think that's a better way to go about things than he did. And I think that's just something to think about. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe.